Hello there, everybody, and today I'm finally here to talk about Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 5. So, I've been putting this series off for a while. I don't know why. I think I just got busy with other videos and other stuff. And so, I'm finally here to talk about The Clone Wars Season 5, then we'll do Season 6. And I'm thinking of honestly re reviewing Season 7. But anyway, the Clone Wars season 5, I think it's probably my favorite season of the entire show. Besides season 7, like the Siege of Mandalore, but like season 5 is, I think the show is honestly awesome to watch. And some people have nitpicks about the Clone Wars, but like the Clone Wars is some of the best Star Wars in my opinion. It helped me grow up with these characters a lot more. I love this animation style, and it grew as the stories went on from each arc to arc. And we get some of the best stuff we've seen in Star Wars, and some of them more. Yeah, we do get some sillier episodes, but it's still a great season overall. So let's talk about it. So the first arc, because we're going in chronological order, is the Onderon arc. This is where Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Captain Rex are all sent to Onderon to help Saw Gerrera and Lux, who are trying to free the planet of Onderon. So this arc, yeah, it's I like how they're this episode is like where the all of them teach all the characters to basically how to fight the separatists. It reminds me of the Mandalorian season 1 where like Mando teams and Cara Dune like team up to teach these villagers how to fight the natives after them. It reminds me of that. But instead these rebels are shown how to disable destroyer droids, how they throw like little bombs under there and it shuts down the droids, how to take down a tank, the separatist tanks, and it's very fun and dynamic. And we also meet Saw Gerrera, who would later be in Rogue One, and I think we see what led Saw down his path for the way he is, because we know how Saw Gerrera gives more brutal tactics when he's fighting the Empire with his crew, and we see some of that set up in like Andor. But the reason why, we'll get to that in a bit. But we also meet his sister Steela Gerrera, who's like I can guess say the leader of the rebels who are trying to free Onderon from their capital. And it's like interesting to see how they all do it. And I'm randomly gonna say this. I thought Rex's like rebel gear outfit was cool. But this episode more leads to Ahsoka as it goes on, because in the next episode, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Rex leave for another mission, and they give their full trust to Ahsoka. And a war on two fronts is where they all gather together to plot their next move. It's mainly just an action episode where the rebels can finally use their tactics against the separatists on Onderon. And it's mainly Ahsoka having to learn through this team a bit, even though she's with Lux, even though I think that the two were going to be a thing, but because Lux is trying to free and get his mother's name back, they're kind of just, I guess, partners now in this season, so it's interesting. But I feel like things do take a turn in the soft war where like one of the chancellors who are trying to save from getting assassinated by the leader of Onderon, who's going to chop his head, and they only got seconds to save the guy, and the rebels are doing their best for their next move. And I think the man almost gets his head chopped off. It's really dark, but I do like the scene where Ahsoka is like wearing this like disguise, and like she jumps out and like uses like her force abilities to take down all the droids at the same time. Like it's meant to be a cool scene, but I think they do save the guy for the rebel cause. But I think in the next episode, that's where things really take a turn in the Onderon arc. And I don't know, I'm gonna randomly mention this too. While they were training, we do get some Darth Vader foreshadowing where where Steela shoots something really well while training, and Anakin's like, impressive, most impressive. I thought that was cool. It's like the story rhymes. It's like poetry. But the next episode, that's where things really take a turn. Where our duo are fighting on some mountain. They're fighting the last remaining allies so they can free with the remaining droid forces to take out the free Onderon. And they're on like this mountain area. And they need all the help they could get. And that's where Anakin comes in, and he's going to actually send help. He tries to reach out to Hondo, but like it's gonna be a big deal, I guess, since Hondo, he doesn't do well since he's a pirate. But things really take a turn when like a Saw ends up shooting down one of the separatists, like this gunship, and it shoots down, and Steela tries to get back, but she ends up almost falling. But Ahsoka ends up using her Force abilities to try to save her. But because of a separatist gunshot, like it shoots Ahsoka in the arm, and Steela falls to her death. It was like a sacrifice, and she dies from the fall. Even though Lux did try to save her, it was already too late as she fell. And Saw does grieve for Steela, and they do bury her as the planet of Alderaan is free. The man who was responsible for it is captured. I think he was when he was threatened in the software episode, but like, yeah, Steela made a good influence on the people of Onderon. I guess it makes Saw Gerrera the leader. So yeah, I do like the line where Obi-Wan does tell Anakin that like, oh, our Padawan has been through a lot these past few days, and yeah, he was right. Obi-Wan was right, as Ahsoka feels so bad about what has happened. But Lux says how he's gonna still follow into his mother's footsteps, and for good reason. But yeah, that's the last we see, I think, of Lux in the show. So yeah, I really liked his character. I hope we do see him again. I'd like to know what he's up to, but I don't know if he's in any other stories. But yeah, this episode is I feel like it's a lot of foreshadowing, because this episode is referenced in Star Wars Rebels Season 3, where the Rebels do learn why Saw is the way he is, why he's so shady, is because he lost his sister, and he gives more brutal tactics once the Empire comes into power. And we do see him in later in the Bad Batch, but he isn't in too many episodes of that show. But we see more of him once he's in Rogue One, and yeah, he's mostly in Rebels. But yeah, this was definitely an interesting arc for sure. It was nice seeing Ahsoka team up with a different kind of army instead of the clone army. It's nice to see a group of rebels come together to take a stance at freeing a planet that they care so deeply about, since it's their home world. But the next arc is the Padawan arc. These episodes are really good. These episodes I had a lot of fun with, especially the Gathering, where a group of younglings have come together on the planet Ilum to meet up with Yoda, and Ahsoka's there, of course, and they're going through this trial to get their lightsaber crystals. And I don't know all their names. I'm gonna do my best to know their names. We do see Gungi, the Wookiee Jedi. I think we see Petro, I think his name is. He's this one. Yeah. And we get a bunch of cool voice actors voicing these characters. We get Greg Sipes, the voice of Mikey, voicing this guy. I forget his name. I'd have to look it up. I'm sorry, I'm not good with names. But they have to go through these trials. And the way they do them are very interesting, because they only have a few seconds to leave to the ice thing, before it gets closed, and they'll be trapped in the temple, or maybe they think they would. But what's interesting is Yoda actually gives their trust in these Jedi, and Ahsoka. Ahsoka doesn't tag along; it's all up to them. Where I think Petro actually finds a crystal, but it turns out it's just meant to be ice, and Yoda clowns at him for trying to leave early because he thought he found this crystal, but he didn't. The crystal, like, calls to them. I think what makes them go through their trials is, like, Gungi has to literally, like, step on ice, but he hears, like, this loud noise that's, like, preventing him from grabbing his crystal. I think Kit Fisto's Jedi, his species character, he needs to stop relying on his technology. They have their own quirks, basically. He relies on technology too much, and that's what's preventing him from finding his crystal. It's leading to his own insecurities until he does find his crystal. Yeah. And I think Gungi eventually does overcome his fear, and he actually does find his crystal. So that's a nice redemption. And I think the Rodian Jedi, I think she has to find her crystal when she finds a whole bunch of them. But she's so overwhelmed by it, but eventually she does find her right crystal. I think this Jedi, I think he had to cross through, I think, ice, I'm pretty sure. And that's how he gets his crystal, through something. I forget. But, like, I think this one is, like, she's the last one to find her crystal, but I think she almost gets trapped in the temple, which leads her to randomly find her crystal. But, like, I think Petro, she tries to get him to break the ice, but he just leaves her, abandons her. But I think she does find a way to get out. But Petro's the last one, as the ice is literally about to close the temple, and Petro does find his crystal at the last second. He's almost trapped, but he manages to break free. But Yoda tells him that, like, they ask him why they thought they could never get out. But, like, Yoda's like, it's only in your mind. But I think that's that episode. So this was a really interesting episode. It, like, explores, like, Jedi's getting their crystals, their lightsabers, and interesting planning with, like, Ilum. It was really good. But things do take a turn in the test for strength. The test for strength is where the Jedi are ambushed. But that's where they meet the lightsaber sort of keeper, Huyang. So yeah, we see him in the Ahsoka series. And I was so thankful to see him in this. And even though he was just in these episodes, we see how he was able to build lightsabers for thousands of generations. He actually even calls out Petro for easily building his lightsaber and not actually looking at the precautions of making it. Like, all the Jedi are successful in making their lightsabers, but Petro ends up messing up his, where he actually turns his lightsaber into a bomb. But Huyang is definitely an interesting character, but they're ambushed by Hondo, who is looking for Jedi, and Ahsoka's trying to tell him, like, not now, Hondo. But, like, it's already too late as they get into a fight. We get this cool fight where Hondo's using, like, this Magna Guard stick, and then Ahsoka uses her lightsabers to fight him. But I think what leads to the to be continued part is where Ahsoka ends up getting trapped in Hondo's ship, and she is captured by Hondo and his group, but all the Padawans and Huyang managed to escape. And, like, I think Petro also used his lightsaber to cause a distraction, as, like, he causes his lightsaber to blow up, basically, one of the goons. So that's how they escaped, but Ahsoka unfortunately could not escape. So yeah, that was an interesting episode. But I think next is the Bond for Rescue. This is where they try to contact Obi-Wan, but he's too busy dealing with General Grievous, as he has entered the place, entered their, like, ship, and Cody and Obi-Wan team up to take him down. but I think Obi-Wan almost loses the fight, but he manages to escape the ship, and he actually tricks Grievous into staying, saying that the ship will explode, and he really destroys the entire Vector Star Destroyer, whatever you want to call it, and Grievous just tries to get out of there, and yeah, it was a nice move on Obi-Wan's part, but unfortunately he could not help the rest of the Jedi, since he's trapped in an escape pod, and they only got the courage they got to be rescued, but I think it's going to lead to Grievous fighting the Padawans and Ahsoka. But meanwhile, the Padawans actually try to rescue Ahsoka where Hondo is, and they decide they're gonna dress up like circus acrobats. But and then once they perform, Ahsoka's like, oh no, but they do perform and they entertain Hondo. But it just yeah, I think it just the episode just ends with them eventually do rescue Ahsoka. They get their lightsabers. It leads to a battle, but things do take a turn once we get to the Grievous episode where he does find the Padawans in Ahsoka, and it forces Ahsoka to team up with the pirates as they did capture Hondo, and I think they're forced to let him go free. And they have to go with this plan to find their way to escape. But apparently they have, a Slave One ship. And, I think we get this one scene where R2 tries to... R2's in these episodes, by the way. He tries to use, he uses, a speeder to try to enter the Separatist field so they can find their way to escape. But then, the... R2 tries to piss off the droid, but then the droid's like, oh, don't be playing smart with me. But I think what happens next is they get into this speeder bike chase, and it leads to a small lightsaber duel between Ahsoka and General Grievous, and they get into a fight, and I think Hondo manages to pick them up, but that's where it leads to a small lightsaber duel between Grievous and Ahsoka, and they get into this fierce lightsaber duel, and I think Ahsoka manages to get away at the last second because they used the cannons on the Slave One ship, and they manage to take out Grievous, but he manages to get up as they all escape, and I think they all reunite with Obi-Wan. I forgot to mention Pedro actually does make his lightsaber, and the episode ends with Obi-Wan gliding. They are all safe, and they all turn on their lightsabers, and that's that episode. So, yeah, the Padawan arc in Ahsoka was really good. Even if there's moments that seem silly, but it was still interesting to see, how Jedi made their lightsabers and crystals. And, yeah, there's some cool moments with, Obi-Wan versus Grievous, and, Ahsoka versus Grievous was cool. Actually, I think this is the last time we see Grievous in the show, since I don't think he's in Season 6 at all. But, we do see a little, flashback of him in Season 7, where, it shows parallels to Revenge of the Sith. But that actually might be Bad Batch. But, I don't know. But, yeah, it was cool seeing Grievous one last time in this show, in the original run. But, yeah, we see, more of a badass Grievous in the Clone Wars micro series, but that's a little touch on Grievous. So I don't know. I wish Grievous was more in this show, but yeah, they definitely explored Grievous, I guess a little enough in this show since he was an iconic part of the show. But the next arc is the episode I'm probably most looking forward to talking about, the D Squad arc. This is where R2-D2 is set up with a group of droids to after the Jedi learn that there's some intel going on, and it might lead to an all-out war. It might cause, an ambush for the Republic. It might end up losing their losses. But, so R2 and a group of droids are set down to go get some intel on a Separatist dreadnought and return it to the Republic to make sure they have their information so they make sure they don't get ambushed. That's where R2 teams up with R2-KT, the pink droid, We get this one yellow droid. We get like this other droid who has like a little hatchet in his head, and we get a pit droid and Colonel Gascon, who's apparently has fought in the Battle of Geonosis, but we'll find out what he was really up to. But like this episode was like interesting because I like the dynamic between I like the whole concept of the D Squad, where a group of droids are set on a secret mission where they go on the on the Separatist dreadnought, but like they get their intel and they do. I think like one of the droids ends up shooting like a laser, which takes out most of the droid forces, and I think R2 ends up squashing one, which was interesting. But they have their intel, but that's where the next episode comes in, where I think this is actually George Lucas's favorite episode of the show, The Sunny Day in the Void, where the droids are on some asteroid planet. It actually looks really beautiful, where the asteroids are coming in, and R2 and the droids are trying to fix the ship, but they end up crashing land on some isolated world, and we're gonna find out why Lucas this is his favorite episode. But we do learn more about Colonel Gascon, as we find out that the only reason why he was recruited, despite his small size, is we find out that he didn't actually fight in the Battle of Geonosis. He just read maps, and the droids kind of make fun of him for it, but they are sent on this like isolated planet, and the entire episode is like them trying to get through the desert, but it seems like an endless nowhere. But they find out they're actually walking in a circle, and the reason why George Lucas loves this episode so much is because it reminds him of his first movie. I forget what it's called, I'm sorry, but like I think it's a movie where it's about a people walking in endless nothingness. This is long before he did Star Wars, but I could see why he likes this episode. But it's interesting to see the psychology behind the whole. If you're stranded in an ice, it's in the middle of nowhere, you feel like you're going nowhere, and it feels like you can never escape. And I think the droids end up walking off once they find like some abandoned like separatist thing. And they find like a skeleton, but the droids managed to walk away as they thought that was their intel of escape. But like nope, they end up. I think the pit droid and Gascons end up walking throughout the desert, about to give up, until a group of these like critters come by super fast, and the two hang on to them. And they actually find a city. A small little city, but that's where the episode comes to a conclusion, as the droids are okay, but it leads to the next episode, Mission in Action. This is where the droids have discovered that there is a city on this place, but they have no means of escape since their transport is destroyed, and they have no contact with the Republic. But it isn't until they meet a clone, a person that looks like a clone, and it turns out he is a clone. And he's apparently working at some diner as the Gascon tried to get some food, but like they didn't allow him to come in, the mean manager. But like turns out it's we meet Commander Grigor. This is his first appearance, as apparently he was trapped on this planet after he was in the Battle of Sarish, and he lost amnesia, and he woke up on a transport, and he was picked up by his boss, Borgus. I can't wait to talk about Borgus, but like, he's this mean boss who's like mean to Grigor, and he's actually taking advantage that he does know that Grigor lost his memories, and Grigor actually tried asking what a clone is after he met Gascon, after he realized that he's a clone, and we see like him in this garbage. Like it's weird. It's like it's so gross looking, but like they tell him about a clone, and then Grigor asks Borgus, and then Borgus is like, "Ha, clone? No way, you're a clone. You're a dishwasher." Like that scene is so funny. I just love Tom Cade's over the top voice when it comes to Borgus. And the droids try to get him to remember who he is, but Gregor's like, I have no idea I'm a clone. I don't know what that is. And they try telling him it, and they actually show him like a hologram of Captain Rex. But like Gregor's just not buying it, as he does cut his hair to remember if he's a clone or not. But they have a plan to find his equipment to prove that he's a clone. But Borges is hearing about this, and so it's revealed that he has the armor, and then Gregor is gonna have to fight for his freedom. And Gregor realizes that Borges was using him as the droids and Gascon tell him that like he's like Borges' slave, and I think the droids end up taking down Borges, and then like Borges is like, you are a dishwasher. Your life is mine, Gregor. You'll never find your escape. You'll all be stuck here. Like he's like laughing maniacally as they all take him down, and then Gregor finally puts on his armor. And their only means of escape is through a separatist guarding a transport. And so Gregor manages to help the droids out. And they go onto their little shuttle and they manage to escape. But like one of the droids gets knocked down, and then Gregor helps it up. And he gets they all get on board except for Gregor, who sacrifices himself. And he is caught in the explosion as the droids are like mourning his loss and saying, Gascon says like he's a brave soldier, but we thought Gregor was dead, but no, it isn't until he appears in Star Wars Rebels in the Bad Batch, so we can see why Gregor has some like issues in his head, because he's been blown up like twice. He's gotten amnesia and he got blown up in this episode, so it makes sense that it affects Gregor's psyche, but I really like this episode. But like the next episode is where the droids, and while they're trying to find their way back, they enter a Republic ship, and they encounter a group of droids who they thought were clones, but it's actually just droids in disguise, who are using this ship as a bomb to take out the Republic. And it turns out the intel was right, as the droids are on this ship. And they only got seconds to live as they take out the commando droid. And I think the droid with the hatchet thing, I think he sacrifices himself as the droids are ambushed by a bunch of buzz droids. And they actually try to take them out, but like the droid with the head thing, like he ends up opening an airlock and they all fall out with the droid, and he sacrifices himself. I was sad when he sacrificed himself though, but like he had to do whatever it takes to save their mission. But that's where R2 comes into place, where he is going to make a sacrifice, where all the droids try to escape, as they only got seconds before the bomb goes off. And Obi-Wan and Anakin are anticipating what's going to happen, but that's where R2 does end up overloading the system before it can hit the Republic, and it causes like a big explosion. We hear R2 say, uh-oh, and like it explodes. R2 made a big sacrifice, and yeah, the way the explosion looked, it looked super cool, even though it was super massive. And Anakin learned that R2 sacrificed himself, and he's like he immediately says, get the ship under together, find him. And then they do find him. A salvage team does find R2, who has been damaged, broken, destroyed, and the episode ends with R2 being rebuilt. And Anakin's super happy, of course, because because of plot armor, R2 was able to be rebuilt. So yeah, no one ever talks about this moment, that R2 blew himself up. And so the D Squad arc was a really fun arc, and a lot of people don't like this arc for some reason, but I really like D Squad. But the next arc is the one we've been waiting for, the Darth Maul arc, where we finally see what Maul is up to. But because kids wanted to see what Darth Maul was up to, they aired the first Darth Maul episode first. But because this show's out of order, the first episode, Revival, is actually later in the show. So the first episode of Season 5 was The War on Two Fronts. But anyway, it's where Darth Maul and Savage Opress are out killing Jedi. We see him kill a Twi'lek Jedi and a Jedi that looks Di for some reason. It's like they used his model and then like they were just like, let's just throw him in there. So it's kind of like a sort of lightsaber duel between Di at least. But like even though it's not him, but like Obi-Wan and Adi Galliga are sent to go find Maul and Savage, who have taken over a ship with pirates, and they decide they're going to start an empire where they're going to try to recruit the pirates. But because Hondo, you know how Hondo is, he decides he's not going to have it with. And I do like the scene where like the pirates do think they're Jedi at first, but like they're not. But like they managed to get on the planet and while all the pirates are there. But like Obi-Wan and Adi Galliga are sent, and we get this awesome lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Adi Galliga, but unfortunately Adi Galliga is killed by Savage Opress. The way Savage kills her is brutal. Like he stabs her with his horns, and then he stabs her with her lightsaber, his lightsaber, and it's sad. Like Adi Galliga died so graphically, and Obi-Wan's like, no, and he ends up using her lightsabers to fight the two. As Hondo is like battling these goons, but like Obi-Wan ends up almost getting killed by Savage and Maul because they're so tough. But Obi-Wan defeats Savage by kicking his leg and slicing off his arm. So yeah, Obi-Wan's lucky if you really think about it. Obi-Wan has fought a lot of beings, and this proves how tough he is. He can take a fight, even if it's Darth Maul. But like they end up force pushing back Darth Maul, and they all try to escape, the two of them. But Hondo ends up shooting the two, and like Maul is shot, causing his leg to leak, and they end up escaping at the last second, and they end up drifting off to space as Obi-Wan has no choice to find if he's gonna find them or not. But the next episode, that's for thing. This episode, by the way, this episode was really good, and some people are complaining how like this retcons Ali Galliga because she died by General Grievous in the Legends continuity. But honestly, this is how I view it. Like I think the Legends continuity in Star Wars is different. Before the Clone Wars, like kind of overwritten it. But like I bet a lot of people probably didn't know Ali Galliga died in that comic. But this is how I view it. She probably died in the Legends timeline by General Grievous, and in the new canon, she was killed by Savage Opress. Or maybe, I don't know if the Clone Wars is part of the Legends timeline, but it doesn't really matter since it's all Star Wars at the end of the day, and we could still enjoy it. But like the next episode is like, this is where Savage and Darth Maul are founded by Pre Vizsla. This is where it gets really good. As Darth Maul is repaired, his legs are repaired by Pre Vizsla. He gets a robe. Savage gets a new hand. As they all decided to team up after learning the Mandalorian's ways, and Maul has decided that he's going to gather every criminal syndicate he could find. He finds the Black Suns. Savage ends up killing all the Black Sun. They get their heads chopped off except the main leader, and they try to overpower him, but like Maul's just not feeling it. And so their next move is they're going to go after the Hutts, where they do go to the Hutt, Jabba's palace, but because of, I guess they didn't want to team up with Jabba after they encounter one of the Hutts, and I think Savage ends up killing one of the Hutts, and they try to recruit Jabba. And like the fun fact, Rada the Hutt was apparently sent off somewhere else for safety reasons. That's why he's not in this episode. And we don't know what happened to Rada the Hutt. Will we ever see him again? I don't know. Maybe he's happy. But like anyway, that was off topic, but like they do recruit the Hutts as part of Maul's syndicate. But like things are taking a turn because Pre Vizsla is not having it with Darth Maul, as he's just pretending to be an ally to him, because what he really wants is to take over Mandalore. And he makes like a big speech in a crowd full of Mandalorians people, but it turns out they're gonna betray Satine, And he does. And he eventually does betray Darth Maul and Savage, as he was like, I don't want you part of my Mando team. You're not going to be leader. And they do capture him and Satine. And Pre Vizsla does team up with the governor of one of the governors, who we do see in season 7 of the show. But Darth Maul and Savage manage to escape their little prison, and it leads to a duel between Pre Vizsla and Darth Maul, and it is super epic. I love this lightsaber duel. The Darksaber versus Darth Maul, and Darth Maul manages to actually take a little bit of a hit with Pre Vizsla, but eventually Maul does win. He chops off Pre Vizsla's head, and it's dark, and he claims the Darksaber, and that's where this whole Darksaber thing kind of started. Like, it would start off with Tar Vizsla, which we learned in Star Wars Rebels, eventually to Pre Vizsla, and then now Darth Maul, and then Sabine gets it, and then eventually Bo-Katan gets it, and then I think next what happens is, like, it eventually goes to Moff Gideon, and then Din Djarin, and now back to Bo-Katan. So yeah, that's the history of the Darksabers, but like, yeah, that was an epic lightsaber duel. But things take a turn when, like, in the next episode, where Obi-Wan is alerted after Satine tries to alert Obi-Wan after she tries to escape. And she actually does say, Obi-Wan, I need your help. It's like Princess Leia saying, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. But Satine is captured, and Maul's going to use this to his advantage, as he's going to lure Obi-Wan the Mandalorian. Obi-Wan actually uses the Twilight, and apparently it's really broken down, and it ends up getting destroyed. And, like, Obi-Wan's unfortunately captured, and he is unfortunately, here's the big spoiler, he is unfortunately forced to see Satine get murdered by Darth Maul. And Darth Maul is, like, happy once he did this. He really wants to do this to break Obi-Wan. But because this shows how strong Obi-Wan is as a Jedi. He's willing to hold his anger back, even though he loves Satine. But Obi-Wan is rescued by Bo-Katan, who has decided she does not like what Maul is doing. And Satine gets her redemption, as, she did follow Death Watch, and we see more of her redemption in, like, The Mandalorian, like, season 3 or 2, but, like, it leads to an all-out battle, and we get this iconic shot of Obi-Wan, but, someone senses that Darth Maul is up to something, that being Darth Sidious, who has come to Mandalore. And it's wild that Obi-Wan does not sense Darth Sidious at all on this planet, and Darth Sidious actually ends up showing up. But, like, he has realized that Maul is a failure, and it leads to what probably my favorite lightsaber duel of the show. Savage Opress and Darth Maul get into a lightsaber duel with Darth Sidious, and it goes like the Phantom Menace lightsaber duel. Maul is almost taken out, but Savage ends up getting murdered by Darth Sidious. So yeah, Maul is, like, getting his karma, because he killed Satine, the anger Obi-Wan, and now Darth Maul loses something he loves. Somewhat loves, even though Maul doesn't have a heart. It's kind of a weird way to put it, I'm sorry, but, like, he loses Savage, and Maul tries to take out Sidious, but he fails, and then Maul actually begs for mercy. And Sidious ends up torturing Maul with Force Lightning, and that's the last we see of Darth Maul. Because we do not see him in the show in Season 6. We originally were, but we instead got Son of Dathomir, and some people really want that to get adapted. I mean, honestly, me too. It'd be cool, but Son of Dathomir was an interesting comic, and this was easily Darth Maul's best episode. We see the rise of Darth Maul, and he really wants to take over. And we do find more of his motivations later in, like, Season 7 for why he wants to start an empire, as he really just wants to defeat Sith. I'll get more into that when we get to Season 7, but, like, the next episode is probably the best in the entire show, the Ahsoka walkabout arc. This is where Ahsoka and Anakin are having their usual, like a mission where they're on a planet defending it, and I think Anakin's starfighter gets shot down and he gets knocked out, but like Ahsoka saves him and R2 almost falls out, but like he of course is fine, but the Jedi are sent back to the temple after having to go to an investigation about a mysterious bombing that has happened at the Jedi temple. And they actually do have the funeral where like we get this moment between Ahsoka and Barriss. We didn't see Barriss in the first episode, but we do in the second one, where they do try to investigate what has happened, but they believe it has something to do with these nanobots. And it turns out the person that was bombed, and we do meet the wife, and she confesses to what has happened, and they think she's behind this whole thing, and she actually ends up revealed that she is behind it, and she ends up getting arrested as she's revealed to be the perpetrator, and we think they have their kidnapper. But that's where it leads to the Jedi that knew too much. This is where Ahsoka is sent to the jail cell where the girl Letta is, who was said to be the perpetrator behind the bombing of the Jedi Temple. But before she's about to reveal who actually did it, she gets force choked and dies. And it was not Ahsoka. And she is just as shocked at what just happened. And because of that, she is believed to be the perpetrator behind the whole thing. For why they think she killed Letta. And even Moff Tarkin believes it, as he is believing Ahsoka's behind it, because she seemed to have some anger towards the lady after the funeral of the Jedi who died. And we do get this scene with Ahsoka and Barriss. We did talk about Barriss in Tales of the Empire, but Ahsoka and Barriss have that little talk. But Ahsoka tries to escape, and it turns out a bunch of clones were murdered, not by Ahsoka, and they think Commander Fox thinks Ahsoka is behind it. But Anakin and Captain Rex team up to try to talk to Ahsoka, because they know she didn't do anything, and they do their best to try to get her, but she manages to escape. And she almost falls down the drain as she has this talk with Anakin. And this is the best we've seen Ahsoka, as she talks about how she did not do this, and Anakin's like, just come with me and we'll prove your innocence. But Ahsoka's like, no, I gotta be on my own. And yeah, it shows that Ahsoka has redeemed herself, like a little character arc. She's proving herself that her master isn't always gonna be there. And even though Anakin assures her that he'll never let someone hurt her, Ahsoka still leaves, and she narrowly escapes as the clones almost catch up to her. But that's where it leads to the next episode, where Ahsoka is trying to go into hiding, and she wears this hood, but she is caught. But she gets chased by Coruscant guards. But that's where she bumps into Ventress, who is actually going to help her escape. But she almost wants to turn her in. Ahsoka does learn that she's a bounty hunter. But then once Ventress finds out, oh, maybe we're not so different after all. But they team up, and Ahsoka tries to contact Barriss, and then Barriss is saying how she's going to investigate. And I think Ventress ends up letting Ahsoka, finding a way for her to escape. But while Ventress tries to move on, she is knocked out by a mysterious figure. And then the figure puts on Ventress's helmet, and it leads to a lightsaber duel between the two, as the clones are still after Ahsoka. It's Commander Wolffe. As the two get into a lightsaber duel, with this Ahsoka versus this mysterious figure, she ends up getting knocked out, and then she's thrown near an area which has the nanobots that destroyed the temple. And now Ahsoka is now framed for not just murder, but terrorism. And before Ahsoka can explain, she is knocked out by Wolffe. And Ahsoka is now going to be put on trial. And Ahsoka is, like, feeling frustrated by this. Like, and so is Anakin. But, like, it turns out Padme is going to be the lawyer for Ahsoka. And Anakin is doing his best, but, like, Ahsoka was sent to the Jedi Temple, and they ask her what has happened. But they just aren't buying it, as Ahsoka's trying to convince them that they are all being deceived. But they're just not buying it, as they remove her rank as the Jedi Temple and remove her from the Jedi Order. And Ahsoka is now going to be put on trial. And Governor Tarkin is now the prosecutor, as Chancellor Palpatine makes them the arguments, and Padme does her best to defend Ahsoka. And this is actually the only time we see Padme in this show, but Anakin's doing his own digging, as he is now trying to figure out what has happened. He confronts Ventress, and she's like, "Just leave me alone." But then Anakin goes towards his limits, as he uses the dark side to take out Ventress. And Ventress does reveal that, like, Anakin, like, she reveals to Anakin that, like, Ahsoka had contact with Barriss. And so that's where Anakin does confront Barriss. And I've kind of already spoiled it, but I think Ventress ends when Barriss plays dumb at first, that like they think Barriss is the perpetrator, and she's actually revealed to be the perpetrator, and we're gonna find out why she did it, and it leads to this epic lightsaber duel where Anakin does find out Barriss is the traitor. She took Ventress's lightsaber. She even says it's her fitting, it suits her, and it gets into a lightsaber duel, and even the Jedi Temple guards help out Anakin while Ahsoka is on trial, and I think Anakin does take out Barriss, and with the help of the Jedi Padawans and the one Jedi with the cane, and they do take out Barriss. And before Ahsoka can get sentenced, Anakin pulls in Barriss, saying she's a traitor, and eventually Ahsoka is shocked by this. And Barriss confesses that she destroyed the Jedi Temple because she feels the Jedi have just lost their ways. And now that's the last we see of Barriss until Tales of the Empire. So, and then the Jedi Council tried to apologize for their actions. But, Ahsoka ain't buying it. And we as the audience aren't buying it either, since they basically betrayed Ahsoka. And Ahsoka is offered back on the Jedi Council. Wait, no, not the Jedi Council, the Jedi Order. But Anakin tries to offer her, but she closes his hand, and she says, "I'm not coming back." And then Anakin is super shocked by this, and he tries to confront her. But then Ahsoka reveals that she has to be on her own because the Jedi Council never trusted her. So how could she trust herself? Anakin tries to say, "The Jedi Order is your life." Ahsoka's like, "Maybe, but it's my choice." But then Anakin's like, "I know what it's like to want to walk away from the Order." And Ahsoka's like, "I know." And we get this sad music. Ahsoka officially walks away from the Jedi Order, feeling betrayed. And that's the episode. Easily some of the best Star Wars we've seen. Easily one of my favorite moments of all Star Wars. And it shows how betrayal can go the wrong way. And I've heard a video saying like how Ahsoka and Barriss, the people aren't convinced. A guy wasn't convinced that like Ahsoka and Barriss shouldn't be friends. Like, oh, it's a tragedy since Barriss was Ahsoka's friend. But it does show that they're friends in this show, even if it was just one episode. But we see that Barriss has betrayed the Jedi Order, and some people think it's character assassination for Barriss, but I don't know. I'm very sure the plot twist was definitely different, since we weren't expecting Barriss to do it. But it's wild that we see Barriss sort of redeem herself after this arc in Tales of the Empire, after she learns how cruel the Empire is. But this was definitely a fantastic season of the Clone Wars. I think I give it like a 10 out of 10. But what do you think of the Clone Wars Season 5? I can't wait to review Season 6 and Season 7. So that being said, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.